All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Tracy, and I'm here with a very special guest, Sheila Walker. I had the opportunity to meet her when I went to Maui in October, and we were able to discuss her views on the incident that happened in Lahaina. And she has some really great ideas, and she's also involved in politics. So I wanted to bring her on so she could shed some light on the bills that have been attempting to go through. And the one is 3381, and there's also an HS 2693. I know someone corrected me that there are two different ones. The 2693 is attempting to use eminent domain for the state to buy property from property owners against their will. So everybody, please welcome Sheila Walker. And I'll let her start out by going over, she'll tell you, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what you're going to be working on for the year, your campaign and things like that.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your guests on this podcast because it's so important that we pay attention to Maui. We're not getting enough coverage in the news cycle. So thank you for listening to this bill, the two bills that are on the floor. One that has just been stopped. It's now dead, this bill. But before we go into the bills, I will say I ran for the Senate seat in this district. It's District 6 on Maui. I ran in 22 and I had over 30% of the vote, but I didn't get in. I lost to, he wasn't the incumbent, but he had been in the House for 16 years. I lost to Angus McKelvey. So he's now the senator in this seat. And because of the reapportionment issues on Maui, or not issues, but just the way the reapportionment works, this seat happens to be up again now in 2024. So 2 years as opposed to 4 years. So lucky for me, I can continue running against him now in 24, which is exactly what I'm doing. And Angus McKelvey has not proven himself to be for the people or to have done anything in the past 2 years as a senator in his position. He didn't do much as a House representative for 16 years. And so now it's time to get him out of his seat and let someone like myself take over and actually do something for the people and do something for good for Lahaina. Because the bill he submitted, he co-sponsored this bill, the 3381, called the Lele District, to create a new district and to have a 9-member body oversee what happens to not just Lahaina, but all of the West Side. This was a very bad bill. It was poorly written. It had many line items that were absolutely opposite of what you would expect for someone who supported their district. It did not support the original property owners, and it was a proposal to turn all of Lahaina into basically a Disneyland. They wanted walking paths and public space park areas and high-rise buildings. And the idea was that all original property owners would buy in to this. It's basically like a co-op. If you're familiar with New York City or how co-ops work, you sell off your shares of what you originally owned, and then you own a portion of this new development. So you don't get to rebuild on your original land. You basically get an equivalent to what your property was worth in a new development. So you might be on the fifth floor of some high-rise building, and that's your option. So you basically traded your original property for this. It was a bad bill, poorly written, poorly distributed. Even Angus himself walked it back and said, because after it passed the first few committees, everyone was excited about, a lot of people were excited about it, not the original property owners, but people in the progressive movement, the globalists who wanted this to go through, they were all super excited. And even Angus himself walked it back and said, hey, let's slow this down. let's give this some time. Let's not make rash decisions here. He said, let's give it a year. And I'm kind of paraphrasing what he said in his interviews. He even saw the need to like slow it down. He didn't realize that they would pick up on it so quickly and push it through and actually make it happen, because he knew it was bad. He knew in his heart of hearts that it was a bad deal for the people. And last Saturday, on Maui, they had a public hearing to review the bill with the actual public from Lahaina. And who didn't show up? No show. Angus McKelvey, the
Oh,
actual
wow.
senator that
Proposed
was
it.
supporting the bill. He didn't actually write it. I mean, he supposedly co-authored it. I mean, he
Right.
supported it. His name is on it. He stamped his approval on it, but he didn't even show up to face the public and discuss this bill. And then that was last Saturday. And then this week, it's dead on the floor. It's gone. It's done. They're over it. The people said no. Everyone spoke up. I had as many people from my own Maui Republican Federated Women's Club testify against this. The Maui GOP and the Hawaii GOP testified against this. So all of us conservatives were absolutely against it. And not only were the conservatives against it, but plenty of Democrats were against this too. So that makes you realize it is a bad bill. If the Democrats are against him, it was bad. It was a bad deal. And the poor, unsuspecting people of Lahaina who actually thought it was something good, they're grasping at anything they can to get like any kind of support.
Oh.
And so unbeknownst to them, they didn't read through the fine lines. They're just saying, yeah, he's trying to do something for Lahaina, and they supported him, I think, innocently, unknowing what he was actually trying to do. He was trying to sell them out, and we stood up against it. And so this bill is now dead. 3381 is dead,
Yay.
but believe me, they will bring it back. They'll eventually bring it back, but it'll have to be next legislative season. It won't be this year.
Okay, I did want to point out they made this area much bigger than Lahaina. So Lahaina is just this little area right here. And that was something that I thought was quite surprising, that it was going to cover all of almost all of West Maui.
Exactly. Exactly,
Yeah.
Tracy. So, and I can speak to that too. This is also a tragedy and should absolutely never, ever, ever be committed to. They wanted to form a new district outside of the House district, outside of the Senate district. So they made it a much larger area. So anyone living within this area would have to fall under the mandates of this new Lele district. So this is original, not original landowners, but anyone who lives up in Kanapali, anyone who lives down in Olowalu, they would have to comply to whatever this 9-member team would come up with. And because of this new districting, they would have to form a new ballot and have a separate election to elect the officers. The officers would be appointed at first, and then they would be elected in 2026. So from now until 2026, you would have some appointed officers, this 9-member team of whoever, who knows who they would be making all the decisions. And then in 2026, we'd have to have a separate election, which election ballots to run an election in that size of an area would be well over, $250,000 for the county to absorb the fee of that. So it's a waste of money and a waste of time. And all of the decisions would be made immediately by the appointed team. And like I said, who knows who they would appoint? The public has the right to elect their representatives in, and this wouldn't be overseen by the current elected officials. And that's also just, absolutely wrong. It's a workaround. They were trying to get their agenda accomplished, but we said no, and we stopped it in its tracks.
And I did make a big deal about this when the readings and the vote was being done, and a lot of people did write their testimony. They didn't let in-person testimony, which was really unfortunate, but I love hearing that these things, like a normal person such as myself can do something and it will actually make a difference. So I was like so excited when I saw your post that 3381 did not pass, because I thought it was a done deal. I thought, okay, that's it's gonna happen, but
No,
it
it
didn't.
does make a difference. And I want to encourage everybody to pay attention and to continue. You can make a phone call. You call their offices. We have a phone bank system. I have several groups of women on in my Federated Women's Club. We have a phone bank system. We call consistently to our reps, the House reps, senators, anyone who has influence on these bills, and we call their offices. We email. If we testify in person, if possible, we fly over to Oahu to testify in person when possible. But if not, we call their phones. Everyone has to blow up their phones all day long and let them know how we feel. And it does make a difference. You can't just sit back and think, oh, there's nothing I can do about this. So if you don't know how to get involved, definitely look up your local Federated Republican Women's Club, because there's lots of clubs that support the community in getting involved in testifying against these bills.
Okay, and I'll put links to those things in the description. So if you guys want to get more information, but I'm going to really try to announce these things on my channel so that people get word of it. They could, they have time to put their testimonies in. And, someone, Stacy, a very dear friend of mine, flew to Oahu to try to testify, and they didn't let her anyhow. But so now that this bill is dead, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, there has to be some sort of change. I just spoke to someone who is in a hotel who lost his home and lost everything, and he just doesn't know. FEMA has told him that they don't have any more federal funding, and so come May, I'm just so worried that he's going to be homeless.
Of
And
course. And that's
what
a
is
very
being
real
done?
fear.
Yeah.
And many people in this situation have this fear. And FEMA and Red Cross are not, they actually, in my opinion, they are not the answer. We've got to get these people up on their feet, get them working in real career jobs where they can actually make money and afford housing on their own. And we need to start rebuilding Lahaina. And the proof that they're not even trying to rebuild Lahaina and they don't have anything in the plans to rebuild Lahaina is that number one, they are not ordering in supplies. There's no big supply orders coming in here to Maui, because in order to rebuild an entire town, you would need all kinds of supplies coming in here, being shipped immediately, because it takes sometimes 12 months to get supplies here. There's no supply chain coming in here yet. So they're not even working towards the future in that matter. Also, if they were smart, they would be building a port right now in Lahaina to ship those supplies around the island to come into a port in Lahaina, because there's no way those supplies can go across the Pali, the highway that goes to Lahaina, on flatbed trucks. In order to rebuild an entire town, the tonnage it would be necessary to bring building supplies in, it's an astronomical amount of supplies. If you want to clog up our Pali, our one road in and out of Lahaina and the west side, not just Lahaina, the entire west side, then that's
Yeah.
what will happen. In order to rebuild that town, the Poly would basically need to be shut down 24/7 with supply trucks going back and forth. So I don't know why they're not supporting building a port over where the old marina was. It's deep enough to bring in supply ships. They need to be working on that immediately, bringing supplies into Maui, stockpiling them into warehouses so that we can get this town rebuilt immediately, not 5 years from now, not 10 years from now. That is insane that they're like pushing this off. And even Josh Green, our governor, says himself, oh, it's going to be 10 years before we recover. You know why? That's because you're sitting on your chair in your office and not doing anything about it. I was at 9/11 in New York City when the towers came down. That building 7 fell down that afternoon and it was rebuilt in 1 year. Tower 7 was rebuilt in 1 year. It was a 50-story building. So it does not take 10 years to rebuild a whole community. You could do it immediately if you are proactive and do it. But They don't, for whatever reason, they clearly don't want to do it. They could have also already built a tent community for all people who have no housing right now. They could have installed an immediate temporary community, just like the military does when they go into other countries. They set up temporary housing for a whole fleet of the military, complete with hospitals and triage and whatever they need. Within a couple weeks' time, they can put in a whole infrastructure in other countries. If they can do it there, they could do it here. And we have the largest military base, one of the largest in the United States, right on Oahu, and they could come over here and set this up. But they aren't doing it. And why? I don't know. But I'm frustrated. The people here are frustrated. The people without housing, without jobs are frustrated. They don't have money. They don't have a future. They've lost everything in their life. And it feels like no one cares about them.
Yeah, the only thing I have heard that is being shipped in are these modular homes. And I've hearing that from people on Maui, and they're afraid that I think they're very small, maybe 200 square foot rooms. They're afraid that that's just what they're going to be put into, and they're not going to have a choice. Do you know what that's about? I also saw a housing meeting when they thought this bill was going to go through, and they had the plans and everything. And it was just really terrifying that they were already planning for this, as we say, I don't like to say the S, but this modern city that they're planning for. And it's just really terrifying that they're just going ahead, and seems like they're going to do what they want regardless of what the people want. So do you know anything about these little houses getting shipped in?
Yes, Tracy. So, yes, there are many, many organizations, and actually too many. There are a lot of organizations working independently, which, I mean, I say too many, but thankfully there are small organizations doing a lot of good work independently. So, thankfully for those people, because they're helping to house plenty of the families. But it doesn't feel like there's one cohesive group that, or any cohesive organization that really has a good plan that really can satisfy the needs of everyone. And so people are falling through the cracks. There's plenty of deserving people who still have no places to live, but there are a lot of these communities. And honestly, though, really, it's taken 8 months, 9 months, 10 months to get these up and running. They could
Mhm.
have been done in 3 weeks. And the reason they're up and running now is through private citizens, private organizations, churches, and people who care. It's not because FEMA set it up. FEMA didn't come in and put in a camp, or the Red Cross. They didn't put in any living quarters for anyone. Yeah, maybe some tents and some cots and some shelters initially, but the fact is, our government has failed us. Our organizations have failed us. The churches and private citizens are the one who are taking care of the people in Lahaina, and they deserve much better treatment. And the organization is still less to be desired in this kind of a crisis situation. You would think that we would have had a better crisis plan, especially being on an island, being
Right.
susceptible to tsunamis, hurricanes. Why wasn't there any kind of emergency plan in place where we absolutely know how to set up temporary housing, set up temporary electricity, fuel, whatever it needs, whatever we need for this kind of situation? Because this island could easily be wiped out by a tsunami and we would be in the same situation. And there's no contingency plan for that. How is that possible?
Yeah.
I'm suspicious that there is no plan to help people in that kind of uh
That's what it
you
seems
know
like when I talk to people. They've
emergency.
been told nothing.
Hmm.
So, I've been following this since the beginning, and it doesn't seem like there has been any real long-term solution at all. So what is there to do now that this bill is it dead or is it just being rewritten? Do you think
Okay,
they
so it's
try to
absolutely dead
rebuild?
for now, right?
Okay.
It's dead for now. It won't be resurrected during this cycle.
Hmm.
I didn't look at the details of the death on the death certificate. But it's most bills can be brought up again, so they'll recycle it through some other time, but I don't think it's possible to do that this session. It might come up
Okay.
again in the future, and they rewrite things, of course, regurgitate things,
Right.
so they don't have to start from scratch. So but it's definitely gone for now. And now I'll focus on the 2693 to see the details of that one, to see if that one has any legs. Not
Yeah.
sure. I mean, that's about the land,
Eminent domain.
yeah, eminent domain land trust type of thing. So now we'll have to focus on that one and see if like I said, if that has any legs.
Yeah.
It The most
It kind of
important one was to
3381.
me was the 3381. So
Yeah,
I'm
it seemed like they were putting those two like kind of to like make it confusing because I even had a hard time figuring out what was going on. But 2693, I think it's still possibly going to be voted on. I think it passed the Senate, but not the House. But can you explain how these bills get passed? Like, how does it, someone writes it, and then what is the process in order for it to get
I can't.
put
I
into
I mean,
law?
and I can tell you like my opinion on it. It does seem a little still a bit of a mystery to me. Obviously, I'm not holding a House or Senate seat, so I'm not an expert. So let me just put it that way. But from what I can tell, these bills, get written and they get put up to committees to review. So,
Mhm.
and it seems random how many committees it has to go through. Maybe it has to go through one, two, three. Maybe one committee reviews it and says, oh, it needs to go to all these other committees. I don't know how that's decided, but it does go through certain committees before they decide if it's eligible for the House or the Senate. So if it's brought
Mhm.
up by a senator, it goes to the Senate first. If it's brought up by a House rep, it goes to the House first. And then, so if it meets all the committee requirements, then it goes to
Mhm.
whoever brought it up. So if it was the Senate, it goes to the Senate. If the Senate approves it, then it seems like they all have a crossover and have to be approved by the other branch. So if it was approved by the Senate, then it has to go to the House to be approved too before it can be signed off, and then it has to ultimately be signed off by the governor.
Winner, okay.
So
And he
he
could
has to
veto it,
approve it,
right? He
like
could pass
after
it.
all of that, and he could absolutely throw it out at the end of the
Okay.
day. So it seems like a long, convoluted process, but this is our checks and balances. So
Mhm.
I'm not poo-pooing the idea of having, these types of checks and balances. I think it's great. Uh, so that we can make sure that it's a good bill and that everyone has an opportunity to review it, and that all kinds of public opinion gets voiced.
Okay. So thank you so much for your expertise on this because I know like I don't pretend to be an expert at all this. I'm learning as I go. But something that I want to share with everyone is I when I met you, I didn't know politicians like you existed. I just thought everyone was kind of going with the official narrative that we've been told. And I want as many people to know what your stance is, what you stand for, and your opinions on the event that I've been reporting on. If you can share, how you feel about the fire.
Thank you. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks for giving me a platform to speak. And yeah, and I don't really consider myself a politician. I mean, like I haven't been a politician. I'm not in office. I'm just an average everyday person. I was a past business owner. I care about my community and I care about what happens to us as a state and us as the United States. So I'm involved and I'm paying attention and my eyes are open. And it seems like something happened in Lahaina that was not natural. And the proof is in how they're responding to this unnatural situation. And in my opinion, there is no response. They're just like, oh. well, we'll see what happens and we'll try this and we'll try that. There was no plan. I mean, there's nothing in place to rectify this situation. And it's just been one debacle after the other. And even during the situation, one complete failure after the other. And I'm not placing blame on one particular entity or organization. They all failed, though, really. And but you can't blame the firemen. Their failure was probably on their intel. I mean, they failed, but they were told the wrong thing. So it's a chain reaction of failures, and it resulted in a horrible tragedy, horrific deaths. The people are traumatized to the point where they won't be able to relax. Their central nervous systems are going to be just agitated for the rest of their lives. These are images that you don't get rid of. There's no amount of psychotherapy that's going to help these people, and there's no amount of money. Like, you can't just pay them off. And so the very thought that even Josh Green offered people like a $1 million severance for the loss of a loved one is such a, I mean, it's just a stab in the heart. Like, seriously, are you kidding me? You're going to like put that kind of dollar amount on losing a loved one? It's disgusting to me. It's absolutely repulsive and appalling. I will not stand for it. And yes, that's why I continue to run for office. And I would absolutely love to represent the people of Lahaina as their senator, and Kihei, because Kihei is my district as well, and Waikapu. So my district has 3 major communities. And the number one thing on my platform, and this was my platform last time I ran too, and this time it will definitely be number one, it was high last time, is that we need more fire protection and more fire security on this island. We don't have enough firehouses. We aren't up to speed on our fire security, and we must, absolutely must, have a fire station in Oluwalu and Waikapu both to mitigate some of these possible fire protection situations. And the idea that they're, Tracy, I don't know if you know about this. This might be some breaking news for you. They are installing fire detection towers now on Maui. And it's the taxpayers are not paying for it. It's funded. It's somehow self-funded. And these fire protection towers will detect anything within the radius of these towers, any fires that go off, any carbon monoxide that go off. But these towers also surveil everything. So it's a surveillance type of technology that they're installing right now in the guise of fire protection. But I do not believe that that is the sole purpose of these towers.
Probably has a 5G
it absolutely could be that or other things. I'm against putting more towers, more surveillance towers. I mean, we can physically see when fires are going off. We can see smoke. We can detect it soon enough. We don't need these early detection towers. Right. So yes, that's a platform issue that I have. The other platform issue that I have is we need more fire exits from the communities that we already have in place before we build more housing. Of course, we need housing. That's a no-brainer. We need housing. But if we don't have fire stations and fire exits, it does not make sense to put more population in a tightly compact area with no regress. So we need an exit out of the Kihei area and a better exit out of Lahaina. And that means finishing the bypass beyond where it ends now. So those are some of the platform issues that I will stand for.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned these towers. I didn't know, but it's just so terrifying when I hear about these things being installed. That's a priority, and a private industry, some kind of private industry is paying for it. That's really suspect. Okay. So, you know what, I'm running out of time, but I wanted to thank you so much. And please come back and update us on, not only your campaign, but these bills that are coming through, so I can let everyone know, because my audience is very, very passionate, and not most of them are not on Maui, but some are. And another thing that I'm hoping to encourage is that people on Maui will be more informed, more likely to go out and vote, make changes. And I've always just really liked you from the second I met you.
Oh,
So I just
thank
wanted
you.
everyone to see you, hear what you're about, and just to get to know you a little better. So I would love it if you came back on and said hello and gave us some more information. So
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tracy. And I'd like to invite you and anyone who might be on Oahu over April 13th. The Hawaii GOP is having a Prince Kohio event that's a fundraiser. We honor Prince Kohio because he was our first Republican. He put us on the map. He was a member of Congress, and he was a prince from the Hawaiian Kingdom. And we're having a fundraiser on April 13th. I'd love to invite you to come and be a guest at my table. And if any of your audience members, if you're on Oahu or you happen to be coming to Oahu, please contact me so you can be my guest at my table at this amazing fundraiser. And you can contact me at votesheilawalker.com. And that's my website, votesheilawalker.com. And I'm on social media at Sheila Walker for State Senate. And thank you. I just appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience.
of course, and I'll put all of those links, all that information in the description, like the April 13th and all of your ways to contact you. So again, thank you so much, Sheila, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Tracy.
All right. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for being here.